Welcome to the Bootleg post-game report here at Stanford Stadium. I'm RJ Abeytia alongside publisher and on this night, owner of a house divided, Jim Rutter, which we'll get into. We'll get into that in a second, but right now just talking about Stanford's 31-14 win over the Washington Huskies, a win that leaves Stanford as the only undefeated team in the Pac-12 at 5-0 in conference play and in first place in the Pac-12 North. Not the absolute fireworks that we've seen on the first two games of the homestand, but
taking care of business. I mean,
absolutely
we wanted hold forward at home against a team that, boy, without their starting quarterback, I'm not sure who the real starting quarterback is for Washington, but they weren't really threatening us with their quarterback play tonight. So getting by a conference team and just not playing down to an opponent. I mean, this is a good Washington team, but they're very young. We have probably over twice as many fourth and fifth year seniors as Washington does.
Washington's got 18 upperclassmen total on the roster. So very young team.
A lot of experience for some of their players for years to come, and they're going to, that's going to cause some problems. But this is this year, and that's what we care about. I mean, the idea that we're 7 games into the season, and we can now look at the remainder of this schedule and say, boy, we can play with every team that we're going to line up against. So it's very exciting. Sky's the limit as long as we don't get ahead of ourselves. I don't think anybody played poorly tonight. It was a solid performance. We'd like to see a turnover or two to help make things easier. But execution was fine. Pretty vanilla offense, but they did well and they produced a lot of yards. I mean, this is a good Washington defense, and they put up almost 500 yards.
I think I'd go vanilla in the second half. They did show some decent looks in the first half. A lot of the fake pitches from Kevin Hogan that set some things up. The play action touchdown pass was really well conceived, really well done. I thought as exotic as they were going to get would have been the first half. Second half, I mean, you know what you're going to get with a David Shaw team when you're up 2 scores, 3 scores. You know how it's going to look. So maybe the average yards don't look spectacular. Stanford still finishes averaging over 6 yards per play. And again, we're really going to nitpick over a 31-14 win. I mean, it's a 3-score victory in league play.
And the homecoming crowd is going to be happy. They're here to have a good time. We watched the Cardinal jump out to an immediate score to start the game going, and then held Washington to 2 first downs and 58 yards in the first half. So what can you say? The defense came to play, and that's a team that I think we expected to win tonight, but it's always good to meet your own expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly, despite the fact that they're young, that's the best defense Stanford's played this year. And they still put up 31 points. They still put up well over 400 yards. And Kevin Hogan, yes, threw that interception at the end. Otherwise, though, it was a pretty excellent performance from him. He once more completed over 70% of his passes, once more averaged 12 yards per pass. No other quarterback in the conference is doing that. And I'm going to pose the question to you. At what point do we stop talking about him as kind of a nice story? And at what point do we start thinking about him as maybe the best quarterback in this conference?
Well, that sounds like a jinx in the making. So we'll.
It was a question. It's not a jinx. It's just a question.
He's been playing very well. High percentage. I thought it was a little curious tonight that they went with as many deep drops, given the fact that Washington's defensive line got a lot of push. I thought it was, as I say, curious. But he handled it well, handled the pressure. He ran very well, picked a couple of first downs. McCaffrey was his normal productive self. Didn't bust a lot of big runs tonight, but he did end up with 109 yards and added another 100 plus through the air. And so very productive night. And I think our pal David Lombardi pointed out that he continues to be on pace to have a shot at Barry Sanders' all-time NCAA Division I single-season all-purpose yardage record, which would be
as a sophomore. I mean, I just don't think you can underscore. And maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the best thing we can say about Christian McCaffrey is that we were underwhelmed tonight by a 300-yard all-purpose performance.
Going down is like one of the top 10 performances in school history.
Yeah, I can only hope someone's in there right now asking him about if he was disappointed in the performance tonight. Certainly, we weren't disappointed in the performance, and I think it's time maybe to look ahead to a game a lot of Stanford fans probably weren't that jazzed about, but now stands up as a legit test on the road against the Washington State Cougars on Halloween.
The Cougars made themselves certainly present by taking on and defeating Arizona down in the desert. And so if they can go on the road and put, 38 points or something up on Arizona, not that Arizona's been a stout defense, but just shows that you're going to have to bring your A game on the road against a team that will now look at this as a great opportunity to knock off a top 10 team. Stanford's going to probably move up at least a couple with a couple of the losses today, Florida State, Utah. So you're going to have the target on your back. That's what you want. So that's what we have.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it, or we wrote about it earlier this week, that when you're in a place where an 8-5 season is a disappointment, then you're in a pretty good place. And right now, Stanford is 6-1. They're 5-0 in conference. A lot of football still left to be played, but right now, it's hard to argue against the fact that the sky's the limit for this team. Everything that they want, everything that they could aspire to is firmly in their control at this point.
And then you have to be happy with the fact that we went through another tough Pac-12 game without sustaining any major injuries.
Especially on defense.
I mean, that's just terrific. We are thin. We don't have a lot of margin for error, so getting through each game and knock on wood, having the guys get through in one piece is a big deal.
Absolutely. So, good spirits, everyone in a good mood here, reunion homecoming weekend, and I would be remiss if I didn't at least inquire as to just how tense are things going to be on the old homestead. For those of you that don't know, there is a Husky fan who plays a prominent role in Jim's life. Obviously the game went the way Jim wanted, but how's that going to roll exactly?
I am married to a Washington Husky, and it was this week was actually even tougher because the Seahawks came down and beat up my Niners. So we had kind of a split this weekend.
Okay, so it's even.
Yeah,
it works out. Okay,
and that's the split I'll take if we're gonna divide it up. But no, it's Washington came in and was welcomed with hospitality, and I think the Washington-Stanford rivalry has become one of pretty good respect. I think there wasn't a lot of yelling back and forth about faked injuries or anything else like that. So,
no.
We're all good.
Yeah, no, not really a physical game, but not a chippy game, I thought. I didn't think there was didn't seem like a lot of barking out there out on the field. Dogs. But regardless of that, Stanford gets out of here healthy, moves on to Washington State, and full speed ahead at this point.
So, what do we look for? What are you predicting on Washington State? No predictions.
All right, well, not predicting the score, but I think looking at that game, I think you're going to see, again, big revelation, but I think you're going to have to see a lot of Christian McCaffrey, because I don't think the Stanford defense wants to spend a lot of time on the field against that Washington State offense. You're talking about a quarterback in Luke Falk who routinely throws anywhere between 50 and 70 times a game, and that's not what you want to expose the defense to.
And it's not an unreasonable expectation, because Washington State's defense is not in the absolute upper echelon for run defense. So
they're better, but they're not good. I mean, they've improved from last year, but that was almost impossible to avoid. So I think the formula, run the ball, let Hogan utilize the plays down the field, utilize the tight ends. Tight ends came back into the picture tonight. I thought they were a really big part of things. Greg Tabata made an unbelievable catch.
Probably the catch of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Athletically, maybe not in the Francis Owusu category, but we'll take it. It's a win for Stanford, and Washington State's next on Halloween, Pac-12 after dark. I hope you're all getting used to these late start times, because it doesn't seem like they're going away at least anytime soon.
All right, we'll wrap it from Stanford Stadium. RJ Abeytia and Jim Rutter wishing you a very pleasant good evening and a fine rest of the season. We're going to enjoy it.
Go Cardinal. All right.